YouTubers, this is Nurse J at Nursing the Truth, and I hope everyone is having a great day today. And as always, I would love to bring you the truth and the God of wisdom, truth, and knowledge is Thoth. So here again, we are going to be talking about the Catholic Church. And boy, do we have a wicked web that they weave. So, as the collective consciousness starts to rise, we must break down the boundaries and expose this wicked corruption. So, what I'm going to be talking about today is some of the fine-tuning web that Eusebius wrote about, and that all of this information that I'm reading from, that I'm giving to you guys, comes straight out of the Bible myths and the parallels to the Old and New Testament. And yes, you can go online and it's free to read. So all you need to do is put in the Bible myths and parallels to the Old and New Testament, and you will not want to put the book down. It's over 500 pages, and I read it within a week. Astounding information, and you must read the book. So as we know, let's move on. We know that Constantine was an initiate of the Mithras cult, and that he was called the Sol Invictus. And yes, my friends, Sunday you think that you are worshiping Jesus the Christ, the Messiah of the Catholic Church, but did you know that you are actually worshiping the sun? Yes, my friends, the sun. The crown of thorns, the aura around the sun. You are worshiping the sun. He says and states that he does not want to have the same holy day as those stinking little Jews on a Saturday because of the Sabbath that they do on a Saturday, which, my friends, is also a Babylonian holiday that the Jews took from Babylon, and they still have it to this day. Now, moving on. So, we know that the Catholic Church removed different gods and goddesses from the Vatican and put the apostles and all these other kind of people in their place. As for instance, everyone's running around, why does Moses have horns? Why does Moses have horns in the Vatican? Oh, when they're trying to do all this prophetic work and look in the scriptures and horns in the veil. Well, my friends, it was a character called Jove in mythology, and Jove had horns. So now they've made it into Moses. Just like they've taken Jupiter and all these other gods and goddesses and stuck Peter's head on it and calls it Saint Peter of Rome. So now we have these little pagan temples. You see, all of the pagans, quote, that doesn't go by Orthodox, had their temples and they worshiped their own gods. And because of Eusebius and all that, getting Christianity into the Roman Empire, they were stones and temples and all this kind of good stuff that they had to go with the program because they were making this whole thing up. Well, let's tell you, my friends. So we have a temple that was made to Mercury and Minerva. Well, guess what, my friends? They turned it into Saint Mary and Saint Francis. Then, to the gods who preside over this temple, they turned it into the divine Eustrogius, who presides over this temple. Then, on the temple that says, to the divinity of Mercury, the availing and the powerful and the unconquering Mercury, they turned it into the divinity of St. George, the availing, the all-powerful and unconquered. You see, they took and they improvised. Then there was a temple called sacred to the gods and goddesses. And then they turned it into the sacred presiding helpers of St. George and St. Stephen. Oh, and this even gets better. Let's see. Hit the wrong button, and now I have to go find it. Okay, here we go. To Jove, the best and greatest, they changed it to the Holy Ghost represented as a pigeon. And the mystical letters IHS stayed the same, my friends. IHS. You see the Pope, IHS. Some people say Isis, Horus, and Set, the Egyptian gods and goddess. But did you know whose abbreviations that is? Well, let me give you a little hint. Bacchus. Oh yes, Dionysus, the god of wine and drunkenness, and he's a homosexual. So, jump on board with this, guys. You have a lot to learn. In many cases, the images of the pagan gods were allowed to remain in these temples, and after being Christianized, continue to receive divine honors. Oh, so you nasty little pagans, you hellacious blasphemers, you are now Christianized with the holy water. In St. Peter's, Rome, is a statue to Jupiter, deprived of the little thunderbolt, which is replaced by the emblematic keys. In like manner, much of the religion of the lower orders, which we regard an essentially Christian, is ancient heathenism, refitted with Christian symbols. And we find that as early as the time of St. Gregory, Bishop of Neo-Caesarea in 243 CE, the simple and unskilled. So how can they take the heathen temples and the shrines to the god and goddesses and give their stamp of approval with their holy water and call it divine? You see, friends, stick with what you know and what has always led you through, because we all have the spark of divinity within us. And our ancient ancestors knew about this particular doctrine. They all followed the stars in astronomy and astrology. They had the healing herbs of the land. And this is what you call the holy Christian church that went to our ancestors and slaughtered them for what they believed. And they were with the universal consciousness of nature. This is the most wicked, corrupt religion you could ever be in. And it's time that you guys wake up and let's get out of here. Close the doors to the churches. Quit giving your money to the churches. Because if you like to read the New Testament, these characters tell you, get out of the church. These are scumbags walking around in their gold robes, singing incantations and praises, and that is exactly what the Catholic Church is. Now, the statues of Jupiter, Apollo, Mercury, Orpheus did duty for the Christ. The Thames River god officiates at the baptism of Jesus in the Jordan. and Peter holds the keys of Janus. Moses wears the horns of Jove, and Ceres, Cybele, Demeter assume new names as Queen of Heaven, Star of the Sea, and Maria Illuminata. And Dionysus is Saint Denis, and the cosmos is Saint Cosmo. And Pluto and Persephone resign their seats in the hall of the final judgment to the Christ and his mother. So how do you like that? We have mythological characters, titans and Olympians, fighting for the throne of Christendom. We have to expose the truth of this deception and lie. And if we want to go by scriptures, especially in the Old Testament, calling people out of the church. I'm calling you out of blaspheming. I'm calling you out of this circus that the woman wants to bring you in and drink of the cup of abominations. And yes, we are talking about abominations of the church that has killed approximately over 100 million people, innocent men, women, and children, and practically killed the whole country or southern part of France. The Cathars, the Bogomils, the Crusades. They had 4 crusades, and the Pope told these people to kill and murder and pillage because they wanted you to go with the program. Yes, New World Order. It's so sick how they would take instruments, insert them into women, and pull their insides out. It's called a hysterectomy without medications. And so these poor women would bleed to death, and their children would look on while the dirty bastards laughed. Does this excite you? Does this make you feel proud to be a Christian? Does this make you feel proud to know that this devil of the Catholic Church has weaseled its way into Protestantism through the Jesuits, and they still are in the Protestant Church? They gave you this information, they gave you this doctrine, and you're biting it hook, line, and sinker. But see, today is a day of enlightenment. It is the day that you realize that the veil is going to be lifted. You see, as Egypt always says, there's nothing new under the sun. And Thoth says, all evil will be brought to the light. As we know, Egypt and Sumeria, Assyria, had the oldest laws. Egypt had 142 negative confessions that the high priest and the people lived by. Do not kill, steal, commit adultery, all the good things. So Moses did not need to go to a mountain, to an alien god, or a demigod, or whatever, and take 2 tablets and put them in an ark, because the Egyptians were already living that way, folks. Oh, let's see here. It says in this book, no manuscript of the New Testament, now extinct, is prior to the 6th century and what is to be lamented. Various readings which as appear from the quotations of the fathers were in the text of the Greek Testament are to be found in none of the manuscripts which are at present remaining. Bishop Marsh says, it is a certain fact that several readings in our common printed text are nothing more than alterations made by Origen, whose authority was so great in the Christian church in 230 CE, which he proposed through, as himself acknowledged, they were supported by the evidence of no manuscripts were very generally received. Wow. You mean to tell me that Origen had his nasty little hands in the sacred writings? But you see, I thought everything was inspired and was by the holy breath of God. But man did his own little descripto in the scriptures. And this is a bishop telling you this. Origen of Alexandria. In the Ecclesiastical History by Eusebius, gives us a list of what books at the time of at 315 were considered canonical. Okay, and it goes on to say about the epistles of Peter and all that, and it says that Irenaeus is saying that this Jesus character didn't die until he was in his 50s. So let's get it right. Who are we talking about? Are we talking someone in the 30s? Are we talking about another Joshua in the 50s? 7 out of 10 kids were named Joshua. There's so many Joshuas, Jesus, Yeshua, that was in the first century. You can't name just one. Okay? You can't boil it down to one. There's lots of Marys. The name Mary comes from Egypt. There's lots of Josephs. Okay, so let's see here. Jesus was born. Okay, so if we're supposed to celebrate Christmas on December 25th, let's see who else was born on that day. Buddha, Mithras, Osiris, Horus, Hercules, Bacchus, Adonis. Oh. And all the same people that I just said was born of a virgin as well. And they all three had a mother and a father. Sorry guys, I'm just looking at some things that you might be interested in that might hopefully get you to look into this. Oh, besides forging, lying, and deceiving for the cause of the Christ, the Christian fathers destroyed all evidence against themselves and the religion which they came across. Christian divines seem to have always been afraid of too much light. In the very beginning of printing, Cardinal Wolsey foresaw in its effect of Christianity, and in a speech to the clergy, publicly forewarned them that if they did not destroy the press would destroy the Catholic Church. there could be no doubt that had the objection of Porphyry, Heracles, Celsus, and other opponents of the Christian faith been permitted to come down to us, the plagiarism in the Christian scriptures from previously existing pagan documents is a specific charge that they would have presented to us. But those were ordered to be burned by the prudent piety of the Christian emperors. Well, I think that is all I'm going to say today on that issue. Do your homework. Be vigilant. Search for the truth. Light shall show on darkness. Always remember that the Christ is within us, the divine spark of the consciousness of the universe. We are the seeds, the star children in matter. We will go back to the Creator when we die. So for us now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. I love comments, good or bad. So until next time, have a great day, and we shall see you later on. Ashe, Hotep, and search for the truth.